to the Braw and the Brave with me, Lisa Kennedy. And first off, before we get into it this week, I want to say a huge thank you to you who are on Patreon. Did you know we're on Patreon? Where have you been? Yeah, we are on Patreon, so I would be delighted if you join us over there for some extra Braw Brave content. But without further ado, this week on the Braw and the Brave, I have none other than Jonathan Watson. Ta-da! I feel as if there should be a fanfare.
No, it's okay.
This is very cool, I have to say. We're very excited that you're here.
Well, thanks very much for asking me.
This is what you do when you're just gallus and you just slide into somebody's DMs and go, do you fancy coming on a podcast?
Well, yeah, I'd seen the podcast on Instagram and I really enjoyed it. So when you asked me, it was a no-brainer. So.
That's very kind of you. And as a fellow podcaster, which I'm sure we'll get into, it's lovely to hear that you enjoyed what you've seen and heard. So thank you very much.
It's great.
Now, I am a huge fan of your work, a huge Two Doors Down fan, which, I'm sure you meet many of them on the day-to-day. But I'm actually really interested in your beginnings. Actually, just before we started recording, we were talking about old footage in Glasgow and where you were brought up.
Yeah.
So who is Jonathan as a wee guy in Glasgow?
Boy in Glasgow. Well, I was brought up in St George's Cross, down at the foot of Great Western Road, and I lived there with my mum and dad in a tenement, second floor tenement, and had a very, very happy childhood there. And so that's where we started out.
And what was your mum and dad doing?
My mum was a bookkeeper. And my dad had trained at the Glasgow School of Art as a commercial artist, wow. Which would now be called a graphic artist. Mm-hmm. And from there he went into advertising. Okay. So that was that's.
And in terms of being at school and thinking about what you wanted to be when you grew up, was it always going into the world of the arts?
No, it wasn't. No. I had when I was at school, there was no such thing as drama or anything like that. They didn't have that. No, that sort of fell into place because one day my dad came home from work and said, "Look, there's a junior course at the Royal Scottish Academy of Music and Drama, and they do Saturday morning classes. Do you want to give it a go?" I was about 10 at the time, mm-hmm. And I was an only child, and I think because of that, my mum and dad were always keen to get things where I was, mixing with kids and stuff like that. Yeah. And so I said, "Yeah, I'll give it a go." And my dad said, "Look, if you don't fancy it, no pressure, mm-hmm. Just give it a go." So I went along, and it was 2 hours on a Saturday morning and 1 hour on a Wednesday after school, and I went along and I loved it. Mm. I really enjoyed it, and it was quite a strange setup. Okay. I mean, it was like. It was a real mix of kids. I mean, there was kids for White Craigs and Newton Mearns and the Milton and Possil, wow, right. And the Gorbals and Lindsay. It was a real mix. And I really enjoyed it. I really loved it. And at that time, mainly it was the BBC, but if somebody was casting something that required kids in it, yeah. They would come along on a Saturday morning and sit up the back and observe. Mm-hmm. And if they thought that you might be appropriate or right for the part, you might be asked to read. Now, this came out of the blue because my mum and dad, that wasn't the reason for sending me there. It was something that we didn't.
For you to do on a Saturday. Yeah.
And in fact, some of the people that I work with now, like you mentioned 2 Doors Down, Alex Norton. Mm-hmm. Alex, who was from the Gorbals, Alex attended. He was a little bit older than me, so he was away by the time I got there. So he did stuff as a kid, yeah. And I ended up getting quite a bit of work.
Did you know?
I think mainly because I looked a lot younger than I actually was.
Okay,
I could do that. So I started out. The first thing I did was a Wednesday. It was a thing called the Wednesday Play, mm-hmm. which was a kind of forerunner. To Play for Today. Mm-hmm. And it served the same purpose. It was to bring on new writing, new direction, new style, all that kind of stuff. And I landed quite a good part in one that was done in Glasgow. I think there would be, out in the year, say they did about 26 episodes mm-hmm. of it, they would hand certain ones out to the regions. So I think BBC Scotland got about a couple to do.
Right.
And I did this one called The Boy Who Wanted Peace. It was written by an English teacher from Glasgow called George Friel. And it was about a group of kids that found the stash of money stolen from a number of bank robberies. And I found it.
Yes.
And so it was a great part. It was a good part. And when that went out, that was actually, giving my age away here, that was actually the very first drama that was filmed in colour.
No.
We filmed it in 1969 in the summer holidays, and most of it was done in the old North Kelvinside School, NK. It was old Victorian school that had this big well in the middle with the classes round about.
Yeah.
So all the sets were built in the gym area,
Got you.
the school hall area, and they went to locations round about as well. So that went out, I think it was around about January 1970. And after that went out, I did quite a lot of
And
stuff.
did you have the bug for it then? You were like, oh, this is for me.
No, I didn't. No, I didn't. I mean, I did, and I got the chance to work with some, amazing people. Looking back, I mean, on Dr. Finley's casebook, I worked
cool.
with Hannah Gordon and an old lady called Kathleen Nesbitt, who was a very famous actress that had been part of the Hollywood set.
Wow.
And she played the heroin addict in French Connection 2. I mean, she's a major star. And I got to work with Alan Parker, did a commercial with him just before his movie career took off. But I didn't see it as what I wanted to go into at that time.
Yeah.
And I just enjoyed it for what it was.
Come
it was
back
great
to school
fun.
saying, I was on the telly.
Well, the only thing about it was, and it was probably not a good thing, but I had a lot of time off in the first 2 years of secondary school. So
that's showbiz.
But then my voice broke and the work sort of dried up a little bit.
Okay.
But I did a few bits and bobs like Sutherland's Law, programs that you might not even remember. But
that's great in the formative years to have that.
Yeah, so I did quite a lot.
Like you're saying, like not thinking anything of, just doing it because you're enjoying it.
Yeah, but there was no intention, and I was still going to the junior course, but with no intention of going into it full time.
It's lovely to hear from my perspective, like working in youth theatre, the young people that I'm working with, and you telling that story. Like I'm like, go to youth theatre. Look what happens.
Well, it was. I enjoyed it very much. But I finished it. I was there from the age of about 10 till I was about 17 when I was about just finishing 5th year at school. And then I stopped it, and that was it.
And then really familiar with that world then, I guess, by that point. Do you know what I mean? You've been in the world of the arts and
well, I knew it, you learn how to behave in a set and stuff like that. So, but that was the start of it.
Pursuit of a career, was that a more kind of, you were more focused then at that point to be like, this is actually what I want to do, and I'm good at this?
No, what happened was I left school not really knowing what I was wanting to do. Now, I mentioned my dad was in advertising, and when I was about 17, at the time, I got a summer job in the place that he worked.
Okay.
And at the end of it, they actually offered me a job full time in the art studio.
Wow.
Right. So I didn't do it. I went back to do a 6th year. But then when I finished at 6th year, which was a waste of time, I didn't do anything at all. I thought, no, what I'll do is I'll follow this up.
Yeah.
I'll go down the advertising route. And it was mainly the goal was to be a copywriter.
Yes, okay.
And I did a course that was geared towards that at the College of Commerce in Glasgow, Cathedral Street. And about halfway through it, just after Christmas, I got a call from the BBC offering me the part in a play.
Okay.
And it required 3 weeks off. Right?
Okay, right.
And they weren't going to give me the time off. And my dad said to me, what do you want to do? And I said, I'd quite like to do the play. He went, just do it.
Oh, yes, Dad.
So
Love that.
I did it. And I went back after 3 weeks. Nobody said anything. No, one guy, the wee guy did mercantile law, said, thank you for joining us again, Mr. Watson.
Oh.
So, but what happened was I did the play, and I remember we wrapped, and it was a Thursday night when the studio finished, and I got in the bus at Botanic Gardens to go down to St George's Cross, and as I was on the bus, I thought, no, this is what I want to do. And the next day, I went into the Royal Scottish Academy of Music and Drama, which is in St George's Place, Nelson Mandela Place. Went in there at lunchtime, and the girls that worked, the women that worked there knew me from junior course.
Yeah.
And I said, look, I'd like, can I get an audition for the next year's intake? And it was they were in the last batch of auditions, and I got one of the last places to audition for it. And so I auditioned for them and got in. Yeah.
It was just all lining up beautifully.
Yeah. So it was great. Yeah.
And at that time, like when you were studying stuff, did you have an idea of the kind of work that you would like to do?
No.
Having already done a bit of TV and stuff in the adverts,
Yeah.
and, you know, as a kid, and then doing theatre. Because I mean, like, look at the career you've got and still are having,
Hopefully.
like across theatre and TV and film, like an amazing career.
Well, there was at that point there was no sort of focus on what kind of area. It was just to do the course and
then just see.
enjoy it, get as much out of it as I could.
Yeah, of course.
So what I did, I did the teaching course.
Did you?
Yeah.
Cool, right.
As did Elaine C. Smith.
Yeah.
Elaine, although I'm older than Elaine was the year above me because I had a year out and stuff like that before I went. But I did the teaching course, and part of the reason for that is because when I did the junior course, one of my teachers, who was a student at the college at the time, was Bill Patterson.
Right.
So Billy's known me since I was about 11.
Yeah.
So, and at that time, his career was taking off with 784 and everything. And I thought, well, I'll do that, and if it doesn't work out, I've always
got a bit of a backup
plan.
plan.
I've got a backup plan.
Yeah.
And as it turned out, actually, at that time, it was probably the best course to prepare you for, a career in theatre at that time, because there was a lot of theatre and education work going on at that time.
Yeah.
And the teaching course actually prepared you better for that.
Great.
And when I left, I was fortunate enough to get my equity card from TAG.
Yes.
Which is the TIE company attached to the SITS.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that was a wonderful
Amazing
start.
Of
working
course.
with great people. And I was with them for about a year. Went back a couple of times. But that was a great start.
So you're travelling around the country then with them working and stuff?
No, the TAG used to at that time it played to all the schools in the greater Glasgow area. So you were used to getting lunch with pink custards and stuff like that. And because they were all built in the same plan, you knew exactly where the toilet was. You didn't have to ask anybody. But,
great.
No, I had a great time working in that. And
I guess in education, working in schools in front of young people, they don't hide.
But the guy that was in charge of TAG at that time was a man called Ian Woolridge, and he was a wonderful artistic director for that company. He did so much, and he was so enthusiastic. And I've always I remember he came and gave us a talk couple of months before we all graduated, and I remember thinking, God, wouldn't it be great to work for somebody like that? And it all happened.
Nice one. That's so cool.
Yeah, it was great.
And it is the people you collect along the way, I think, isn't it? Like, in terms of like you've already mentioned so many amazing people, and that have obviously influenced your career, but also just your attitude towards the work and the kind of work you wanted to make and the people you want to surround yourself with.
Yeah, but you certainly, you learn a lot from the people that you sort of come across early in your career. So it's I was very fortunate. I did a play quite early on in my career, working with really established names like Fulton Mackay and Bill Bryden, and a man who maybe not be as well known, Roy Hanlon.
Okay.
And Roy was became a sort of father figure to me, and it was down to Roy that I got my London agent, because he knew that I was looking for an agent, and he recommended me to his agent was a guy called Scott Marshall Partners Limited, and I went to see him, and I'm still with Scott Marshalls to this day.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Wow, there you go, geez, oh.
Yeah.
And in terms of your, like, was it the idea that you would go and work in London? Was that the kind of goal, or because obviously a lot of your work has been here in Scotland, but I'm sure it's taking you beyond.
Yeah, at that time, I did move to London for a few years.
Okay.
But and it was just before I went with Scott. But by that time, I was filming Naked Video,
yes,
and also City Lights,
yes.
So it was very fortunate because it allowed me to make that move. So what I did was I went down for about 3 years in the late 80s, but 86 to about 89, and that gave Scott a chance to get me to meet people and stuff like that. And but by the time when we were approaching sort of late 80s, I wanted to get my own place, and I couldn't afford to live in London.
Totally.
And because I was I'm an only child, my mum and dad were getting on, and the majority of my work was up here anyway.
Yeah.
So I spoke to Scott about it. He said, "Look," he said, the need to be down here isn't as strong, so you can, we can still do a job." And I moved back up. Yeah.
And what was that time like? Naked Video and City Lights. It
was great.
Was it?
Yeah, it was great. It was it started out as a radio program.
Yes.
And which we used to record in the Tron on a Friday.
Is that where you recorded it?
Yeah, we used to. We would meet up on a Thursday at BBC. We'd read through all the sketches, and then Colin and Philip Differ and Neil McVick and Neil Clark, they would all go away, Ian Patterson, Bob Black, and working whatever needed to be tidied up. And then we would come in, go into the Tron, 9 o'clock on a Friday morning, and the vans were all set up to record and all that. And it was they cleared the main stage at the Tron, got about 4 or 5 mics, and we would do a run through, and then we'd go and mark up our notes, and then we would perform it live. And it was mobbed every Friday because all the office workers were having their lunch break. They would all come down, and we recorded it there.
That's so cool. I always think like places like the Tron, like see if they walls could talk, like the things.
Oh God. Yes.
The things that have gone in those buildings, do you know what I mean? Like the people that have passed through the door. And
the Tron on a Friday night used to have a late licence, and yet your way of getting in was through an equity card. And honestly, it was absolutely rammed. I used to say somebody could get shot at the bar and they wouldn't know until they were clearing up the next morning.
Still standing up.
Bit crazed. But yes, you're right. You could tell a few stories. So that's where we used to record it.
And what are you like in the rehearsal room? What was your approach to the work? Are you the messer in the room? Are you the serious professional one in the room?
I don't know. It's not for me to say. I enjoy the rehearsal process.
Do you? Okay, that's good to hear. That's nice.
Depending on who I'm working with.
Because you'll have been in many a room where... Are there rooms that you've been in, you're like pinching yourself? Because I'm pinching myself, like, we're here. But have there been any moments for you where you're like, this is mad, how did I get here? How am I doing this?
Yeah, that happens quite a lot, actually. But the rehearsal rooms can be great. I mean, the best days are when you actually don't do anything at all. Yes. I remember we were rehearsing only an excuse stage show at the Citizens, upstairs at Citizens. And Philip Differ, who co-created it, he says I'm one of the co-creators, but it was his idea.
Okay.
So I'm going to say creator. So Philip and Tony Roper was in it at that time, and the two of them started telling stories about Ricky Fulton. And we didn't get any work done at all.
Tell me more.
I was just knotting myself laughing the whole time. So I know there have been times when you do pinch yourself. Yeah,
I did a pledge, like phone in for the STV appeal one year, and so I was on one phone and Tony Roper was next to me.
Oh, was he?
And I was saying to this woman, it is me, it is actually Tony Roper. And I couldn't speak to the person on the phone because I listened to him. I was killing myself laughing. Brilliant.
Yeah.
And yeah, so you've mentioned Only an Excuse. I mean, I've grown up with Only an Excuse, and not coming from a sporting family, actually. So it's got a distinct memory for me because it was always in my friend Katie's house, and it was her dad's thing, and we all sat down to watch it. I mean, you'll get this all the time. You'll meet people who are like, oh my God, I remember this time.
Yeah.
I remember that episode. Amazing.
Yeah.
Like,
so it's 40th anniversary next year.
That's incredible. I actually didn't, when I was doing my research, I didn't actually realise how long it had run for. That's phenomenal.
Yeah, we recorded it for radio in the summer of 1986, and it was broadcast before Scotland played West Germany in Mexico. Yeah. And we recorded it over a weekend, and we had the run of the building. And there's a bit in the first programme where Tony impersonates Jimmy Sanderson, who used to do the Radio Clyde phone-in, very distinctive voice, and celebrated sports journalist. And I was the guy phoning in to ask him a question. So Philip said, right, you go into that office. So I actually went into another office and got the thing and phoned up.
Love it.
I did my script in front of me. But that was when we did it 40 years ago.
But when I was thinking about this, like, that's a whole other skill set to be able to impersonate. Like the voices, the body language, like, it's one thing to be an exceptional actor and work on the work that you've done, but it's a whole other skill set.
Well, do you know, I get asked about this quite a bit, and my answer is always, all the actors I know, a lot of them that I work with over the years, can always do somebody.
But you can do more than just somebody.
Well, but that was through necessity, because actually when the Only Excuse started out, there was, I think the only impersonations was maybe Tony doing Jimmy Sanderson and me doing Dennis Law and William McIlvanney who narrated it.
Yeah.
And so that's how it started. That started it, and then we began to build on it and build on it.
So you were part of the creative process in that sense, like making suggestions of then just like honing in on the wee nuances of these characters, and then I guess then amplifying them for comedic effect. Yeah, but we kind of, Philip and I kind of worked together in that, and we sort of help each other out with regard when we were doing it. And I mean, for instance, we were talking about the Tron doing Naked Radio. That's where sort of the germ, the seed sort of started, if you like. And because I used to sit up the back marking up my script, and I'd be doing William McIlvanney and stuff like that. And but the whole process about how that came about, it would never happen today, because Philip went to Stan Taylor, who was the then head of BBC Radio Scotland, and said, look, Stan, he said, I've got an idea of doing a spoof of that programme that was commissioned called Only a Game, that William McIlvanney did with Mike Alexander. I'm going to get Ian Patterson, Bob Black, Neil Clark to write bits. I'll write bits. I've asked Johnny to be in it. I'm going to ask Tony, do you think there's any chance of getting some money to do a pilot? And Stan took a drag of his embassy trip and said, forget the pilot, just make the programme. And that was without any script or anything. And that's how it came about. That's phenomenal. That would never happen. No. And we say, well, can we see a script? So you give them a script and we're going, can you change that, and that? There was none of that. Just said, that sounds like a good idea. Go and make the programme. Love that. I love that. Totally. And yeah, I guess over the years, you've been asked this a million times, but what I'm interested in is the connections you made in football, the people that you are impersonating. More so than not, everyone's okay with this. Yeah, I know the response has always been very, very positive. That's great. But I've always said as well, a good joke, upsets somebody a wee bit. But I think one of the reasons that we got away with it was the people in certainly in Scottish football knew that we were real fans. I was going to say, you should be flattered. You knew that we had a real affection for the game up here,
And also, you know, dressing room humour is brutal. And we were nothing like that.
Yeah,
you know,
totally.
so
They've heard worse.
They've heard a lot worse.
Absolutely. And when, like, so 40 years, did you say?
Yeah, 40 years.
So time to revisit anything or a celebration of, or?
Well, we're thinking about it. Yeah.
Yeah, surely. I mean,
We're thinking about it. So
anybody watching this is like, please.
watch this space. No, we've already talked about it, because the other anniversary, City Lights is 40 years old next year.
Wow, gosh,
that was the summer of '86 as well. Yeah.
Goodness.
Although there was a pilot made with a different cast. I think me and Dave Anderson and Gerard Kelly were the only survivors. But there was a pilot made about 1983, I think.
Okay.
And then once Naked Video was up and running, they revisited it and put it on, yeah.
And all the while still doing some theatre work, panto as well?
Panto, that was earlier on in my career.
Because that's like a whole other thing, and it's Scottish panto. I mean, I've got a real affection for Scottish panto.
Right.
It's like a whole other world in itself.
Well, I don't really do it now. I haven't done it really for. I think I've done about a couple in the last 20 years.
Yeah.
But when I was younger, I did quite a lot of it. Yeah, and it was great fun. And but it's still changed now. When I did it, it was like, well, I originally started at the Citizens Theatre.
Yep.
Doing their Christmas show, which was, I mean, you know, without radio mics or anything like that, you were guaranteed on a Saturday night after doing a 2, 5 and 8 that your voice would be gone.
Yeah.
So
the projection was real.
Yeah, projection was real. I mean, I always tell a story that for about 3 years in the Bounds, the only bit of Ben Hur I saw when it was shown at Christmas was the chariot race. Every time I had a break in the show, it was the same bit. So, and then I ended up, Billy Differ, who was in charge of the Kings in Glasgow, he got me involved with the Kings panto.
Yeah.
And it was directed and choreographed by Dougie Squires.
Yes.
Who's very, very famous. So I'm sure that you'll have heard of him.
Yes, absolutely.
But at that time, I mean, it was a real variety show. I mean, the dancing troupe was huge. It wasn't, 3 sets or four pairs.
Yeah.
It was,
all the bells and whistles.
Everything.
Yeah.
And I can remember it. And the girls used to come out and do a bit at the beginning of the first act, like the Tiller girls. And I couldn't believe it. I was like, this is a real variety show, you know?
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And then I guess for a lot of people nowadays, Two Doors Down is just... I mean, I have such an affection for that programme. It is incredible. Yes. It's pure genius.
Well, it's something I'm very proud to be part of.
Oh, that's so nice to hear.
Yeah.
You love working on it, I'm assuming.
Yeah, well, as you know, it's on hold just now because of the tragic death of Simon.
I'm really sorry. Yeah.
But no, I've loved my involvement in it. It's been tremendous, and I was involved right at the start when it was a one-off special. It wasn't people think it was a pilot.
No,
it wasn't.
No.
It was a one-off special that just took off, and it was all done very, very quickly. I always think that somebody must have pulled out of a main slot. It was a BBC One 9 p.m. slot on New Year's Eve.
Yes,
and all of a sudden we got a call to go down. Well, I got a call to go down to meet the director, Simon, the director, the producer, and the contracts were done in a couple of days. Everyone was done, and everybody was the same. Everybody was in the same boat. Everybody was sort of brought together really quickly. And we shot it for 10 days solid, 8 to 8, 12-hour days, 6-day weeks. And we did 10 days in this small house in Paisley, and there was 60 crew in it, and it went out, and it just, I think through this time social media was beginning to kick in, and I think partly because of that it really took off. Yeah,
I mean, your character,
well, all the thing about, I think, the programme is, I mean, apart from the fact it's very well written. The
Yes.
dialogue's great. The characters are so well defined.
Well defined, 100%.
And no matter, where you are in the UK, and I think this, 'cause it's always been a network programme. And I think the reason it's always worked in the network is because people can identify.
Oh, everybody knows Colin, everybody knows a Kathy.
Everybody knows a Christine as well, do you know? And and it's unbelievable. Out of all the stuff that I've done, that is the one that people really remember all over the UK.
Do you have a favourite episode that you worked on?
Yeah, I do actually.
Okay.
It's the one where Kathy goes away to a health spa and leaves Colin on his own. He gets high.
I love that.
He gets hammered for about 2-3 days. That's my favourite one. So that was filmed in the Lincoln Inn in Knightswood, Great Western Road, where the very first time I was in it was early 70s, because I was at drama college with Sheena Easton. Or Sheena
Bellsill fame.
Bellsill
by
fame.
the way, my sister's also from Bellsill, and everybody says all the time that she looks like Sheena Easton, so it's quite a running joke in her family.
Oh, there you go. Well, Sheena's very first live gig with a band was in the Lincoln Inn.
Was it really?
Yeah, there you go.
There you go. What I love so much with that episode. Your acting as a drunk person is spot on.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, loved it.
Years of training. I don't drink anymore.
Do you? Well,
yeah. No, I love doing that program.
Yeah,
that particular one. That was my favourite one.
And what is your creative process leading up to working on something sitting with a script or whatever? What is your process of getting the lines in there? Preparing
it's very boring.
To do a character. Is it?
It's very boring.
Danny Herron said this. She was like, "There's no magic. You just need to do the work."
Yeah, just learn the lines.
Yes.
And what I do, my thing is, I get slagged off for this, but I always write them out. I always write out the lines because I worked with, when I was younger, I worked with an actor called David Rintoul, who did Dr. Finlay when STV brought it back.
Yeah.
He played the Bill Simpson. He played Dr. Finlay. And David's thing was we did Satire of the Three Estates, the Edinburgh Festival, and he wrote all his stuff out. And I thought, that's a really good idea. So because of that, I write all my dialogue out.
Works for you. If it's not broke, don't fix it.
That's it. And there's no method involved. It's just learn the lines, do it.
And downtime on you're waiting and things getting fixed behind the scenes and stuff on Two Doors Down. Is there a bit of banter goes on between the?
There may be. Yeah. No, we all got on pretty well. And
I've met Elaine before, and she's just the loveliest person. I've
known Elaine a long, long time.
Elaine's daughter was here a couple of weeks
ago.
Oh,
was she? All right.
Hannah,
yeah. Who's doing great.
I'm a big fan of Hannah's work. She's been on the podcast a couple of times.
Right.
So yeah, I'm always trying to shout out her work. She's brilliant.
Yeah, no, she is. And so Elaine and I go back a long way. So there's always a good laugh. I get on great with Alex.
Yes.
We exchange recipes nearly all the time. We travel in together. So
nice one.
We're big foodies. So we do that. And I get on great with Grado. So you're a
whiz in the kitchen?
I can hold my own.
Oh, that's nice to know. But we get your own cookery programme next on the list.
That wasn't on the list, but
thoughts become things.
I'm open to offers.
Put it out there. And also a fellow podcaster, which I mentioned at the start.
Yeah.
You got your own podcast now as well.
Yeah, I'd done a couple of them about a year or so ago, and I'd been approached to maybe do one, and it, for whatever reason, wasn't quite right. And then about a year ago, a guy called Ian Lamara, who is in charge of Soho Studios down in London, Ian approached me with a view to doing one. And I had said to him, I said, well, look, Philip and I are keen to sort of work together because we haven't done anything since Only an Excuse sort of was wound up. I said, we quite like, maybe that's something they quite fancy. So I spoke to Philip about it because I was looking for something that was sport related, football related, but with comedy involved as well. So Philip and I talked about it and thought we could maybe do this. Got on great with Ian, and so that put the wheels in motion. And then I've known him for not as long as I've known Philip, but a long time. We asked Chick Young to join us as well. And because the three of us, all go out for lunch and talk for hours. Yeah. So
The
we thought
banter flows.
we might as well record it. And so the three of us have been doing this podcast called Forget the Ball. Its full title is Forget the Ball, Get On With the Game.
Yes.
But on social media, it's usually at Forget the Ball.
Okay.
And so, we've recorded about 12 episodes now. We record it every weekend and it lands on a Monday at 8 a.m. So
Great. And that's a nice thing to do because it's it's different to acting, no script or whatever. You're able to just converse and just have a bit of banter and talk about stuff that you're passionate about.
Yeah, no, you can't. It goes off in different directions as well, and because
that's the best podcasts.
because of our age, it's there's a good dose of nostalgia as well. So, and that seems to be a thing that people sort of quite like about it as well.
Course.
So
it's cathartic as well to talk about things in the past. I think that's why I love doing this podcast, because people get the opportunity to sit down and go, actually, I have done. I mean, I guess you get to do it more than most, but a lot of people say it's been really it's been lovely just to sit down and go, oh yeah, I did do that, and that did happen, and just take stock of that.
Because you forget about it. So you do, yeah. So we do that every weekend, and it's we're going to keep on doing it. We're not breaking for the end of the football season or anything like that. We're just going to keep the momentum going. Great,
I'm sure your fans will be delighted. Well, obviously give a shout out on the socials, so we'll tag you in it.
Oh, thanks very much.
Get watching the Forget the Ball.
Yeah.
And for me, what I'm interested in is the podcast is called The Braw and the Brave. You've definitely been braw and definitely been brave over your career thus far. What advice would you give to your younger self? Looking back on everything that you've done, everything you've experienced, I guess career, but maybe personal-wise, what is the biggest lesson learned, maybe?
Well, do you know, it's a tricky one because, the way things have sort of panned out have made me what I am today and where I am today. Mm-hmm. So would I want to change that? The only thing that I can think of is that there was a point in my career very early on where I was maybe not as proactive as I should have been, because I didn't want to appear to be too forceful or not big-headed.
I think that's a Scottish thing. Sometimes you don't want to stick your head above the parapet type thing. Yeah,
and I think I should have maybe bitten the bullet a little bit and thought, no, I'm going to do this. Mm. Because the one thing that I've noticed about, the sort of new talent coming through, and it's fantastic, is how proactive they are. Yeah, and getting things done. I think that's the big difference that I see between when I started.
Yeah, you kind of need to shout out for yourself, kind of thing. Put yourself out there. Because there didn't seem to be the same involvement in trying to create things and make things happen. Mm-hmm. I don't know if that's something that come out of lockdown or maybe,
whatever.
Yeah.
But certainly the sort of new wave of talent coming through are much more proactive, and I think, in reflection, that's something I wish I'd maybe done a little bit more.
But like you say, the illustrious career that you've had to date and all the things you're getting to do, no regrets as such.
Yeah, you don't want to change too much.
No, totally. Yeah. And what are you looking forward to next? Is there stuff on a list that you're like, that'd be cool if we got to do that? Was the podcast on the list, or are you just more of a reactive kind of person? Like, if an opportunity comes up, it's like, go with your gut?
There is a bit of that. There's a bit of that. I've got some nice things. The possibility of nice things coming up. Into next year actually. Great. So I just want to enjoy these and look forward to. And things come in, that I don't expect, and I try. Maybe it's a Scottish thing. I don't know, but I very rarely say no. If I say no, there's a very good reason.
Yes. Of course.
Because of a conflict of scheduling and everything like that.
Yeah.
But if I can, I will try and do it. There's times when you've got to prioritise, but I try not to turn down anything.
Hence why I ended up on a podcast on a Sunday morning. I have to say, I'm hugely grateful that you've came to do the Braw and the Brave. I'm a massive fan. I find you massively inspiring. You're an incredible actor, and the versatility. I mean, just looking at the work, we've literally scratched the surface today, really, if you think about it, and what you've achieved today and the kind of things you've worked on. And I just wish for you more Braw and Brave adventures.
Oh, thank you very much. That's very kind of you to say.
Jonathan Watson, you are indeed Braw and Brave for sure.
Thanks.
And on that note, thank you so much for joining us here on the Braw and the Brave. Be sure to follow the socials, join us on Patreon, and we'll see you next time. Bye.